You're watching ESPN's Rivalry Week, presented by Wendy's.
One of the great traditions in the Valley is the Illinois State Redbirds enter the floor through the student section. Tonight, Rivalry Week continues on ESPNU with one of the Valley's most treasured and most intense rivalries. It's the Illinois State Redbirds hosting the Bradley Braves from here in Normal, Illinois. Mitch Holtis with you, along with Mark Adams. Mark, it's a two-horse race right now in the Valley.
And whenever you talk two-horse championship race in February, that's good for everybody in the Valley. That's good for us. That's good for college basketball.
I-74 connects the Quad Cities to the American Southeast, except for 39.8 miles. That's a fuse to a powder keg with these two teams.
Well, that powder keg will explode tonight because of the leadership of a dynamic point guard in Paris Lee. He's number 25 in the country in steals per game. Over 2 steals per game. He is dynamic. He's elite defensively. And by the way, he can score and blow the roof off this building. When you talk about Bradley, it's about the baby boom of the Bradley Braves. 4 freshman starters tonight. How good are they? They've won 4 more games than 1 season ago, even though we're only in February. Get ready for a rivalry in the Missouri Valley. It's Bradley and Illinois State. I-74, 39 miles. Here we go, Mitch.
In a rivalry that started in 1905, Bradley and Illinois State ready to go here in Normal, Illinois. The Redbirds at 20-5 on the season. Bradley wanting to spoil the party. You mentioned the youth of this team, but already they've shown progress. They've already won on the road in the Valley at Evansville. First possession belongs to the Redbirds. And Phil Fain wastes no time. Set play, got that going.
Yeah, Dan Muller wants to send a message right now on a special night for him and some of his former teammates. He wanted to jam it home on the first possession.
I saw them in shoot-around today work on some special sets and quick hits. Rivalry Week continues on ESPNU with one of the Valley's most treasured and intense rivalries. 39.8 miles separate these two teams, Illinois State and Bradley. Mitch Holtis with you along with Mark Adams. Illinois State 20-5. It's a two-horse race in the Valley.
Yeah, not only is this a big rivalry game, but it's also has championship implications. Wichita State at 12-1, Illinois State at 12-1, and they've split in the regular season.
So now who avoids the upset? And you'll see Wichita State tomorrow in Chicago. We'll be at Loyola for that game.
Illinois State opens in that 2-3 zone. They're very active. They communicate well.
The tip to Koch Bar goes awry from Hodgson. Tony Wells, one of the veterans on this team. See the officials, Mike Stewart, Ed Crenshaw, Jeff Malum. A veteran crew working this game. Cannell, good from that range. And one of the better offensive rebounders in the league, Dante Thomas, salvages the possession.
Dante Thomas, number 1 in red. He's an energy giver. He's one of those guys who can beat you on the backside glass. Keep an eye on him when shots go up.
Only 9 wins for the Braves, Mark, but we've already seen drastic improvement in them. We saw them a couple weeks ago lead Wichita State at halftime.
Well, in February, where we're talking about 2 12-1 teams, 2 20-plus win teams, that's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for the Valley, and it's good for college basketball. A great race for the championship in the second oldest conference in America, the Valley.
And this rivalry, one of the oldest in the Valley. Illinois State has dominated of late, winning 14 of 16. Cannell will try it again.
Boy, that Illinois State zone is so active this evening. Good ball movement.
Paris Lee drains the 3, coming off a career high. 26 Tuesday at Drake.
That's as good a ball movement and recognition against a defensive rotation a little bit late. Great job by Illinois State offensively.
He had 4 threes at Drake during the midweek. He had 4 threes against Bradley in the opening game of the I-74 rivalry. That was a double-digit win and now a traveling violation. Paris Lee, maybe the Valley's player of the year.
Well, defensively, he is dynamic. He is elite. And here you see his ability to knock down the 3 ball. Now, a year ago, you'd almost dare him to take that shot. But he's worked and worked and worked tirelessly to become an effective shooter, one of the best in the Valley.
He came back with those 4 threes after he was 0 for 5 in that dreadful loss at Wichita State after the Redbirds had clobbered the Shockers here. Wichita State returned the favor, and Paris Lee didn't hit a 3 in that game.
But how about how Illinois State reacted to that?
Big time.
They took it as one loss. They went to Drake and drilled Drake. I mean, they just buried him. And Drake's been playing some good basketball for Jeff Rutter over the last month.
And then a trap game written all over. Another steal. Illinois State again active in the zone. Turnovers have been a problem, especially for Bradley. They're last in the league. 15 turnovers a game for this young Bradley team.
Good passing.
They're going to call Fain. Fain thought he got all ball. So did Dan Muller.
Well, Koch Barr, who's an ever-improving low-post passer, number 12, gets it across to Dante Thomas. Koch Barr had his best practice of the season yesterday. And that pass is a result of that young man coming along. He's making plays now.
This is one of the old men on the team, Dante Thomas, and he's just a junior.
The 3rd youngest team in America, 5 international players, very diverse team, not just in their international makeup, in their young recruiting classes, but also in the parts and pieces that they have. You can see it. This team's going to be good if they can put 40 minutes together. That's their challenge as a young basketball team for Brian Wardle.
They already won at Evansville. They led Wichita State at half in a game that we had. And they should have won Wednesday night. They had Indiana State on the ropes. They forced 22 turnovers, had 10 more free throws, and lost at home.
Young teams lose concentration in big game situations. They're still learning how to be a closer. Well, I love this Illinois State zone. They really move, they really communicate with Paris Lee up top. He's so dangerous with the steal.
He is the nation's active leader in steals. And he just picked up his 128th steal.
Take a look at this crowd. Let's celebrate tonight. Let's celebrate college basketball with one of the great rivalries in America. Bradley on the road at Illinois State.
Exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Wendy's. Proud sponsor of the 2017 John R. Wooden Player of the Year. Samuel Adams, Pursue Better. And the new Volkswagen Golf All-Track, soon to be everywhere.
Illinois State's one of the nation's best teams defensively. They have already forced 4 Bradley turnovers to lead by 4. Mitch Holtis with you here in Redbird Arena along with Mark Adams. This is kind of the Duke Carolina of the Valley because of the proximity of these two schools.
Yeah, under 40 miles separate these two schools of I-74. And believe me, they know everything about each other. They date each other. And sometimes they don't and just fight. These two teams, they have to take a look at the route on I-74 from Peoria to Normal, Illinois. Under 40 miles of rivalry tonight in the Missouri Valley Conference.
That might as well be a fuse to a powder keg. And then the Redbird D, fueled by Paris Lee, the nation's leader in steals.
62 points allowed, 37.4. That's 4th in the nation. Illinois State is downright stingy defensively, led by Paris Lee, who averages over 2 steals per game, is the clear leader in steals.
Evans had a big night against Drake the other night, a career high 16. And Ija saves the day for the Redbirds.
You know, Mitch, it's been really interesting to watch this young Bradley team as they've gone through the season, learning the tough lessons. And I go back to when Paris Lee was a freshman. And Illinois State, how they've grown and once upon a time they couldn't close Coast games. They can now.
Well, what if they had Reggie Lynch, who's now at Minnesota on this team, put him in the middle?
Yeah.
If they've got, as Don Muller would say, it'd go Hoosiers on you and say, my five are on the floor. These guys really have had an outstanding season. Cannell's already missed 2 from the perimeter.
Oh, and of course, Mikhail McIntosh not available as well. He's still nursing that knee surgery on a torn meniscus. They expect him back here in a couple of weeks, if not sooner.
And I should have led you this earlier. Hawkins had the broken foot last year. They had Njai. They tried to lob it to him. He was injured earlier this season. Yeah. Tony Wills was coming off a surgery when he started the season. Their losses early on, and again, they're 20-5. But some of it, they just didn't have enough troops.
Well, that's an excuse for the Dukes and North Carolinas of the world. It's not an excuse for the Illinois States of the world, and that's wrong.
Lee sets up David Njai. Not only is Lee the best in the Valley in steals, he's the best in the Valley in assists.
Yeah, he does so many things from the point guard position. Just watch number 1 defensive. Look how he ball hawks. Look how he always has wingspan. He is a defensive dynamo.
It's like Bradley's looking at 7 guys out there in the zone. 6 to shoot.
And 2 of them are Paris Lee.
Trying underneath JoJo McGlasty.
Look at him ball screen here. He's got a mismatch. He's going to use it too. Turnover. Paris Lee has developed into a point guard that can shoot it, so you've got to pressure him now, which allows him dribble penetration routes to the basket. And this time, because of that dribble penetration, Njai with the slam.
If you're an opponent and he turns the corner like that, 100 bad things can happen to you.
Forget it.
And I like his pace. You know, he plays fast, but the last couple of years there was times he was almost too fast.
Yeah, he's learned how to slow down, let the game come to him, and make good decisions over speed. So many guys just want to be quick and fast. You've got to make good decisions and then add your quickness and speed.
It has been hard for Bradley to get looks.
Njai's getting better. Mikhail McIntosh might be the best thing ever happened to this team in the end, because Njai's getting more minutes. There he is, offensive rebound. Look how active he is.
You know, he was the one guy in the blowout loss at Wichita that had a decent game. He got a lot of minutes in that game and showed signs of improving.
Well, he had a sprained right foot, which cut into his time earlier in the season. You know, he's 7 feet tall. He's only 215. He's got a great wingspan. He can change the game defensively. I mean, this is a guy that's getting minutes now, and it matters.
Another international flavor into the game, Luc Landre, a sophomore from the Netherlands, in for the Braves, and the Braves will play zone.
A little 2-3 zone from Bradley, giving back to Illinois State what they've been giving to him.
And Njai's all over the place.
He is. That was a really good decision and a nice, simple pass, keeping the ball above his head.
If you wrap Bradley shooting, good no-look, Devon Bray, and challenges Njai. Njai's got 24 blocks. He had 2 against Bradley and Peoria. Bradley's now 3 of 24 the other night in the second half against tricky Greg Lansing in Indiana State. They're 0 for 8 tonight. That means they're 3 of their last 32 wrapped around to their game Wednesday night.
Bradley back in man-to-man now. Watch Njai on the backside glass. He's starting to learn how to go get the basketball. Number 4 in white.
And Evans blows by everybody with 1 second on the shot clock. Keyshawn Evans coming off a career-high 16 at Drake Tuesday.
And he's become the player that Dan Muller thought he would be.
Somebody from Bradley has just got to settle this young crew down and try to keep Illinois State within the zip code.
Yeah, Keyshawn Evans has gained confidence. He's got the skill set, number 3 in white for Illinois State. Watching maneuver.
Brown in transition. And Bradley still can't get a field goal. Fain left alone. And Brian Wardle seaming up. And so far, the only car on I-74 is the Redbird Mobile.
Keyshawn Evans is apparently driving that race car right now as he drives past the defense. That's I-74. He's going 85. You better stop him.
It's like the start of some mathematical sequence. 1.11. It's actually 11-1 Illinois State dominating the I-74 rivalry so far. Okay, get ready for this game, folks.
Yeah.
This is one of the best games in all of college basketball all year. Mick Cronin, the Cincinnati Bearcats are rolling 15 in a row against former Illinois State head coach Tim Jankovich in the SMU Mustangs. They've won 7 straight and 17 of the last 18. A journey to the tourney matchup rivalry week presented by Wendy's. Also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. And it's a big weekend for Dan Muller, the head coach of the Illinois State Redbirds, for a lot of reasons.
The 2-time Defensive Player of the Year and 2-time Academic All-American Dan Muller. And on that championship team, he had some tremendous teammates. Who can forget Rico Hill and how he dominated this conference as well back in that 1998 season as the MVC Player of the Year. That team was loaded.
That might have been when the rivalry was actually the hottest, because Bradley had some outstanding teams. In Muller's junior and senior year, they won the Valley. But the year prior to that, Jim Mulliner and the Bradley Braves won the Valley. Wills forces from the corner.
See if Bradley can just score a field goal here. Nope.
Brian Wardle called the timeout. He's trying to figure out a way to get the ball into the hoop. He's gone 10 minutes with 1 point.
Yeah, Paris Lee is like a surgeon out there. He is just dissecting this defense right now.
Like Brian Wardle, had 5 years at Green Bay, he was the Horizon Coach of the Year. And the Skip Prosser Man of the Year, even more impressively. He's getting there. And this rivalry wants it to mean something both ways again. But right now he's getting clocked.
Well, Illinois State, think about what happened 1 week ago. They lost by 40-plus at Wichita State. Not bring up any bad memories for the Redbirds fans. But you know what? It's one loss. And Dan Muller and I talked about it before the game that you got to put that behind you. You just got to move on. You know, Rick Pitino in Louisville went to Notre Dame about 5 years ago and got clocked, lost by 45.
Yeah. I
asked him, what do you do now? He said, let me ask you something. What does the Louisville team and the Arizona Cardinals have in common? He said the Arizona Cardinals they lost by 40 to New England, then went on to win the NFL, the Super Bowl. Yeah. We're going to do the same thing. Yeah. You know what? You got to put those behind you and move on. And that's what Illinois State has done. That shows maturity by their head coach and the leadership on their team.
And had the impressive win here against Wichita State. That's why the two are tied in the standings. Bradley's trying to put a shooter in the middle of that zone to get a look. It's like they're handing Bradley a medicine ball when it's their turn to have possession. Fain gets clobbered. He's going to go right back to the line where he just hit 1 of 2.
Yeah, the thing that Brian Wardle is most upset about is the defensive rotations. Bradley looks almost leg weary. They're slow to react to the basketball. And Illinois State's making a move, making them pay by moving the basketball.
And you've been there as a coach. You can sit there and burn up every grease board you have to try to design a play. But to what, Illinois State, again, they are 4th in the nation in field goal percentage defense. This is not something that's, oh, they're really good tonight. Yeah. They have been consistent that way.
Now, you mentioned number 4 in the country. and they're number 11 in points given up at 62 points per game. I mean, this team, Dan Muller has developed a culture around defense. And what's interesting about this, as I watch them so much, both on the floor and just studying them, they're as good in their zone defense as they are in the man-to-man. Now, how many teams in the country can we say that about?
No.
These are really good man-to-man teams. And then, like a Syracuse, really good zone teams. By the way, Syracuse is pretty good now. They were awful early. They're playing very well in that zone. But these guys can play man and zone.
I think it's why they're dangerous. If they can get to the NCAA tournament, they'll be hard to play.
Yeah.
You don't want to draw the Redbirds. Just give you that email right now.
Yeah, it's a hard prep.
Another great pass by Koch Barr. But
That was a really good pass.
Hodgson wasn't ready.
He will be the next time.
11 minutes, 1 point for the Braves. And there's a grab. DJ Clayton was grabbing Darryl Brown so he couldn't get out the gate.
Illinois State's defense, because of their communication, because of their activity, especially up top. Paris Lee is the guy that starts the energy from the front. When you see your point guard play as hard as he does, then everybody else just follows. And right now they are speeding Bradley up even against the zone.
Kick, so Bradley get an underneath inbounds play here. And look at Paris Lee, the senior. Chicagoland kid.
There's just nothing easy. Njai is just all over the basketball. Koch ball inside. That's a good sign for Bradley. He took it right to Njai. Senegal versus South Sudan. Pretty
We
good
got a
matchup.
battle of the African continent in the middle. Njai born in Dakar, Senegal, although he grew up in Paris, France. Hawkins, nice deep post up, and a desperation foul by Hodgson.
Ball going inside against the zone, and the zone has been downright stingy. This is Senegal versus South Sudan. South Sudan with the early lead. Africa, are you watching?
I'm not so sure I'm not sure they couldn't beat if you just had an all-star team right now around the country and played UConn that you could beat them.
Couldn't. Think about the old Green Bay Packers against the college all-stars way back when.
Yeah, Soldier Field.
There's the Bradley baby boom right there. Is Darryl Brown. He's the leading freshman scorer in the Valley, 39% from three. Koch Barr, 31 blocks. You saw him score in the last possession. Nate Cannell, 5.5 points game, 46% from three. And Jaden Hodgson has been on fire. Almost 55% in Missouri Valley play only. This is a talented young roster that right now defensively is getting burned and offensively having all kinds of problems against the experience of Illinois State.
1 of 15 are the Bradley Braves. And 3 points at the 7:50 mark, but they continue to defend. And they force a 7th Redbird turnover. I mean, they could be down by 20.
Yeah. Watch the Illinois State zone on this possession. Watch how they spread out. Watch how they cover for each other. Watch how much court they cover as Bradley moves the basketball. Njai in perfect position.
And now JoJo McGlaston is trying to get a steal. Instead, he has put Illinois State into the one plus the penalty at 7:35 to go in the first half.
Did you see how the passer there was looking directly at where he was going to pass the basketball? That's what a young team does, and that's how you get beat, especially against a ball-hawking zone like Illinois State. If you look where you're going to pass the basketball, Illinois State's going to steal it from you and dunk it on the opposite end.
Very different from the Bradley first half team that we saw at home against Wichita State. They led the Shockers by 5 at halftime in Peoria and wouldn't let Wichita State score.
Now, it's a young team on the road, Mitch, and that makes a big difference. I know the average fan simply say, well, why is that so different? With young guys when they go on the road sometimes, they're just not as locked in as they should be, and they have to learn lessons the hard way. You know, in life, you learn a lot of lessons. The easy ones are ones where you don't get burned. The most valuable ones are the ones where you learn from failure.
Again, these young guys will grow up in this rivalry. 39.8 miles is all that separates these two universities. And now, Cannell walks.
I just love to watch the white jerseys move in unison. I mean, they communicate so well. It's like they're attached by ropes. They just meet each other and go together.
Here's your series. Bradley actually leads by 3 all time, but Illinois State has dominated of late. But you're right. There's people that live in the Bloomington Normal area and commute to work in Peoria and vice versa.
Yep.
Some of the nation's biggest corporations are in these two communities, the Twin Cities of Bloomington Normal and Peoria. Nice little teardrop, Tony Wells. How underrated is he?
Very underrated. And by the way, do you think they salute each other as they pass each other on I-74?
Yeah, but
we won't go any farther. I'm sure it's a friendly hello. Good defense. Great defense.
Out of bounds to Bradley. A reminder, UConn on a quest for 100. Gino Ariema and the UConn Huskies take on Don Staley and the number 6 South Carolina Gamecocks Monday, what could be the 100th consecutive victory for UConn. Catch the action at 9 Eastern on ESPN2, also streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN.
I used to do backflips if my team won 20 in a season. They just won 20. I'm just thrilled. It's Christmas every day. 100 in a row.
The Globetrotters didn't even win 100 in a row against the Washington Generals. They were 98-2.
Yeah.
Red Clots banked in the 3. Beat the Globetrotters. I checked the Generals.
Was Bobby Joe Mason on that team?
He was, from Bradley. Yeah.
See?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm staying up with you. It's a
Washington
good night for
Generals were 2-98 and had no home games. Generals couldn't get anybody to play at home.
You know, and people say, well, is it bad for women's basketball? No. Were the Yankees bad for baseball when they dominated? The Patriots bad for pro football now that they're dominating? No. My advice is everybody else get better. Boy, NJ is changing the game inside. They don't even want to shoot against him.
3 points, and now an illegal screen. 3 points for Bradley. We have 5:53 to go in the half.
Bradley had the basketball inside from 10 feet and opted not to shoot it. Why? Because of David Enjohn. Wouldn't even shoot it. Just saw him standing there.
But Bradley keeps defending to keep this thing at least somewhat manageable. Hawkins, a good scorer, yet to score for the Redbirds. 23 in white, averages 15. Paris Lee's getting hugged by Cannell. And Paris Lee will go to the line. And when he does that, good too. He's 79% at the line.
Yeah, he's developed into a really good closer. But it's fascinating to talk to him. Of course, he wears the Torrey Ward Jordan 10s. Of course, Torrey Ward passed away in the plane crash coming back from the Final Four a few years ago from Indianapolis with 6 other colleagues from the athletic department. Torrey's mother gave Paris those shoes to wear. It's one of the great stories in college basketball. They've only lost 1 game since he's worn those shoes.
Such a sad, sad day coming back from the Final Four. Short flight. It was in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And on approach here at the Central Illinois Regional Airport. The plane crash. Also Aaron Leach, who was a top administrator in the Illinois State Athletic Department, perished in that crash. Just incredibly sad. Patches are on the uniforms of the Redbirds.
And what a way this school has chosen to honor those that they lost. inside the locker room, outside the arena here. Very first class.
I like Brian Wardle, what he's doing at Bradley with this young team, but he may have to suicide squeeze a run home here. I mean, you have to send the guy. Bray gets the tip in. Their 2 field goals have been at the rim. Both on follows, one by Koch Barr and now Luke Bray. A reminder, our next NBA Sunday Showcase game presented by Verizon Go 90 comes to you from the Garden. It's the Spurs. Kawhi Leonard takes on the Knicks, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. NBA Countdown with Sage and Jalen get you ready for the game at 3. Both streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
Wonder if Ron Baker will get a run in that game. He's gotten some good runs
big time
with the New York Knicks. Jeff Hornacek has shown a lot of confidence in him. He's a lot like Jeff Hornacek, by the way.
And Von Bray gets the 3-point play. And Illinois State gives up double the total on one possession by Bradley. They double their 3-6. Still 4:39 to go in the half.
Well, this is the guy that's just been a menace offensively. Paris Lee gives it up. Tony Wills knocks it down.
Wills not a great 3-point shooter. In fact, he was 0 for his last 4 coming in and just 28% for the season. But looking for those opportunities, particularly with McIntosh out with a meniscus injury.
Isn't it something how Lee shows confidence in him, though, despite the 28%?
Good take, Luke Von Bray.
Luke Von Bray, when he's really aggressive, Bradley is a lot better. He can tend to kind of fade away at times, but when he's aggressive and engaged, Bradley's better.
Thompson, that'd be a bonus. Javaka Thompson, a graduate transfer into the program. Started at Knox College.
Njai again. He just clogs up the middle. That's sweet.
First points of the game for Deontay Hawkins. He had 4 threes in the round in Peoria.
Okay, David Njai has changed this game defensively.
In the first 3 of the game, JoJo McGlaston, Utah State transfer, nails it for Bradley. Paris Lee turns the corner as good as anybody in this league. Hudson might have got by with a few steps.
Just a few.
Chronic illness.
4, you know. He's feeling it. Doesn't get it.
I want to ask you about Hawkins. Sometimes settling for the 3. He's only had 1 free throw attempt in the last 4 games. Prior to that, he had 15 in 4.
Especially with McIntosh out, I like him when he gets down the block and does some things as well. They need him on the block to play and score besides just shooting 3 balls. There's no question that the dude from Dayton, Ohio, Deontay Hawkins, can do this as he knocks it down from deep. He's 43%. That's easy.
Illinois State Athletics thanks BPW Calzones is normal for providing many calzones for the first 100 students in attendance. And BPW would also like you to get on your feet and out calzones. Make some noise, Redbird Arena.
All right, thanks, Brendan and Paul. Illinois State with the resume of a top 25 team with 25 points here, leading Bradley by 14. Again, a very sad day on April the 7th, 2015. 7 members of the Illinois State Athletic Department and boosters coming back from the Final Four, short flight from Indianapolis. And Torrey Ward, assistant coach, lost his life in a plane crash along with Aaron Leach, deputy director of athletics. They call him the Redbird 7. And you saw the patch in the locker room. They wear it on their uniform as Illinois State. This is the memorial outside of Redbird Arena. I'm going to tell you, Larry Lyons is the AD here. He could be the AD at any school in America. He's that skilled. He just chooses to build his career here. He and the folks here have done as good a job as you can do with an incredibly sad situation to remember those 7.
Holy cow. DJ Clayton right there with the dunk. You know, Mitch, to follow up on your thoughts, we've all been through, as we take a look at DJ Clayton right here, watch this. Holy Toledo. The defense just parts like the Red Sea. And DJ Clayton is more than happy to fill the gap. And Mitch, you talked about the disappointment, and we've both been through the fog of grief. We've both experienced that, and this whole community went through that during that time. And when that fog lifts, there's clarity of lessons learned. And the experience of understanding those lessons learned are from the lives that touched all these people in this arena, all of this community through here. And what Dan Muller has done in reaching out to the community to help it heal. And what Larry Lyons has done to reach out to all the students, to Dan Muller and his staff and the student athletes. That fog of grief has brought a lot of clarity to this community on how grateful they are for this program and for the lives that touch this program so well.
Unfortunately, the Valley teams have had to deal with it. The Evansville basketball team perished in 1977 in a plane crash, and I mentioned the Wichita State football team had their plane crash in 1970. But sad day here for the Redbirds, but they've helped those surviving families. It's a great community.
Now, it's going to be a very happy halftime as the MVC champions, led by Dan Muller, will be celebrating their championship back in the late 90s right here at Redbird Arena.
Dante Thomas celebrates his field goal with a 3rd foul. Double bonus for Illinois State. Last time they won the league, Muller was a senior. It was 1998. The guys that will be acknowledged at halftime.
Was Kevin Stallings was the head basketball coach here in Normal during that time. But Dan Muller made an interesting statement as we visited before the game. I asked him about that team, and he said, "You mean my team?" I said, "Well, I'm talking about the late 90s." He goes, "Yeah, that was my team." I thought that was a great comment. The 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, and more importantly to me, a 2-time academic All-American here at Illinois State.
A lot of them showed up today at the shoot-around this morning, and it was awesome to see that reconnect. A national presence with that Illinois State team.
Another deflection. Man.
There's Hawkins at the rim.
Deontay Hawkins, he doesn't play for the Dayton Flyers. He's from Dayton, but he could. Deontay flying.
What was all that talk about him settling for threes?
Guess so much for that. Well, it's a 3. It's a potential 3. Man, what a pass.
And he's going to the line, and I mentioned only 1 free throw attempt in the last 4 games. This will be his 3rd of the night. He had 20 points and 10 rebounds in the victory over Bradley and Peoria.
There's 3.
And when these guys get McIntosh back.
Yeah. And not only get McIntosh back, but the development of David Njai, number 4 in white. He's been the difference maker defensively inside. Bradley has had no answer inside to David Njai.
Njai getting a slug of minutes tonight. Brown has really struggled. The freshman guard for Bradley, no points.
No way. Paris Lee wanted that 3 more than anybody in the building. Njai again.
Koch Bar, second stick back.
Koch Bar is the only guy that can score over him.
But Darryl Brown, the best freshman scorer in the Valley. You see him at the left center of the screen, number 5 for Bradley. Rough half for him.
Yeah. Well, he's going up against a pretty seasoned guy in Paris Lee and company.
0 for 5 with 3 turnovers.
Let's see if Paris Lee can turn the corner now. If he does, watch out.
So for the I-74 rivalry, dominated by the Illinois State Redbirds, looking for their 21st win of the year. As Deontay Hawkins, 8 first-half points, but it's been the Redbird defense, number 4 in the nation in field goal percentage defense, smothering Bradley. Stay tuned for a halftime report. Brendan Fitzgerald, Colby and Cardi, standing by with the latest in college basketball.
ESPN's Rivalry Week, presented by Wendy's.
Well, it's been defense for Illinois State, one of the nation's best defensive teams, played up to the reputation.
Well, David Njai, he's the reason why Illinois State, if they can get the NCAA tournament, could really cause problems. I mean, Bradley had no answer inside to score against the wingspan of Njai. There's the defensive rebound. This guy is blossoming before my eyes as Mikhail McIntosh sits. David Njai gets better and better every minute that he plays.
And let's be honest, Illinois State needed another big to go with Phil Fain. One of the big reasons they got blown out at Wichita State was Fain had early foul trouble. And even though Njai got good minutes, I mean, now all of a sudden we see him improving game by game.
And Njai will come off the bench again here in the second half. It looks like Paris Lee is more than ready to go. You talk about a guy that's enjoying his opportunity right now. This is a senior that understands this is it for him. Watch number 1 for Illinois State, Paris Lee. That's better. That's better for Bradley. They got into the open area. A lot of times young teams, they just run their offense. They don't play basketball. They came out and got into an open space on that very first possession.
How much credit do we need to give to Brian Wardle, though?
A lot.
And now Fain with the no-look from Lee. A travel. Well, if Fain would have caught that cleanly, that would have been one of the better assists we've seen. There was your no-look pass by Paris Lee.
And that's a senior making a pass versus a freshman that makes a pass.
What's overlooked with Lee is his prowess for assists. 130 now for the season, one of the nation's best. Jeff Malum is going to ride up Phil Fain for his 3rd foul. So here's Fain again, getting into some foul issues.
Well, the good news for Dan Muller is he's developed depth. I mean, David Njai can step in. Defensively, he's better than Fain.
Fain stays in the game. Bradley's going to go right at him. Koch bar.
But Bradley coming out, wanting to make a little bit of a statement here early. Playing much, much better, executing much better against the zone. And they struggled to make any shots in the first half. Shot 24% from the floor, 10% from 3, did the Bradley Braves.
With that 1 point at 10 minutes, they got 4 points in less than a minute to start this half.
Well, we weren't sure they were going to get double figures there for a while.
Fain able to finish. Nice feed from Evans.
See, Koch Bar has to learn how to deflect that shot.
Darrell Brown not starting the second half. And he plays as many minutes as anybody on the Bradley roster. I mentioned his struggles in the first half. 0 for 5, no points, and he averages 13. He's the best freshman scorer in the Valley.
You know, listen, I wasn't in their locker room, so I don't know what happened. But I've been through that situation before where your best player, a young player, what's his body language in the locker room? Is he saying, hey, let's get him this half, here's what we're going to do, or is he kind of feeling a little sorry for himself? I'm not saying that happened, but you know what, I've been through that a few times. If you see a guy with body language like that, you say, okay, we're going to sit you down for a while. You got to figure this thing out.
And we'll see if and when Brian Wardle puts him back. And Glaston keeps turning those threes and finally nails it. He had 3 against Ole Miss from bonus distance.
And in that situation, the best thing you can do while you're sitting there watching is cheer like heck for your teammates. Fain
with an and one. Mike Stewart's on it. And Koch Barr has picked up the foul.
Now, Phil Fain, he went through a 3-game stretch where he was making 17 points per game. The last couple, he's been more like 6.5. They need him to continue his development as well.
These times he's been really good against Northern Iowa. 17 points, 10 rebounds. He's had 2 double-doubles. He had 10 rebounds in the win against Bradley and Peoria.
But the last 2, 6.5 points, 4.5 rebounds. So that's because of foul trouble. See if Bradley can continue to move without the basketball and get a good look here against the 4th best defensive field goal percentage team in America.
Thomas goes right after Fain. As Brian Wardle trying to get Fain his 4th foul, and he's done exactly that, and Fain's upset.
And watch Njai, number 4. See how he has vision? Look at the separation he has from the shooter. He's 3 feet away. That's what great shot blockers do. They don't belly up. They create separation and then go up and get the basketball. He does it naturally, Mitch. That's what I like about him.
And how often is the shot blocker the off-ball guy?
Yeah, and he gave himself space to go and get it.
Okay, here's Illinois State going, well, they got Njai out there now. They're going to bring Javaka Thompson in. Fain has to set with his 4 fouls. They're also Deontay Hawkins setting out.
They're better with Njai defensively anyway. And I mean a lot better. A little full court pressure now from Bradley. Brian Wardle wants to get this young team playing hard. I don't think he felt like they really competed well in the first half.
Paris Lee's not out there now for Illinois State, so we'll see how Evans and Wills handle it, and they handle it fine.
And this is an unusual offensive lineup. Usually Evans takes over. There he is.
He kicks it out of bounds. One thing Dan Muller's trying to do, of course, is stay neck and neck with Wichita State. Those two are tied at the top of the valley, but also manage minutes. He doesn't want his guys to wear down. So right now he's got up to 15. He's got Paris Lee and Deontay Hawkins sitting.
And he's developing depth.
DJ Clayton. Challenge at the rim. See Brian Wardle trying to keep his team in this and competing, and yet no Darrell Brown in the second half.
And Brian Wardle going deeper in his bench, and he did not look at Darrell Brown.
Evans has got a launch.
Isn't it amazing how different the offense looks when Paris Lee isn't in the game? But you got to figure it out, because Paris Lee needs to get some rest here and there.
Koch Barr changed it and then got the rebound.
Yeah, Koch Barr's done some really good things in this game.
He's 4th in the Valley in block shots.
And you can see his development. He's had his best week of practice this week. Number 12 in red for Bradley.
Boy, Cannell's had a rough night, too. He hasn't scored. And he averages 6. He's 0 for 4. We talk about the 2 guys from the African continent. You see them right there in the middle of your screen.
Njai's open.
It's going to be interesting to watch these 2 guys develop in the I-74 rivalry against each other in the pivot. Njai and Koch Barr Bradley. (39-24), Illinois State leading the I-74 rivalry. This edition, part of Rivalry Week. The 1997 NCAA team. There's Dan Muller, the Illinois State coach. Same spot in 98. Won the Valley back-to-back. He had the same chair right next to Stallings.
Yeah, that's smart by Kevin Stallings. Sit next to your best player. And Dan Muller could really, really guard. And this is the team, as they were honored at halftime. And a little bit of a surprise at halftime. Dan Muller, instead of visiting with his team, came out also to honor his teammates. And this place went nuts when Dan Muller came out. He calls this his team. It's a very meaningful time for him and for his teammates. 5 of these guys stood up for him in his wedding. There's Dan Muller. There's the emotion. There's the love and brothership of a team of champions.
And he has brought that excellence back to Illinois State. They win tonight. They're 21-5. Their RPI coming into tonight was 32. You look at the other metrics, and they have a good resume, as does Wichita State.
You put Mikhail McIntosh back into this lineup with the development of a couple of other guys because he's been down. This team looks different to me next year. When you look at the non-conference schedule of Illinois State, there aren't marquee wins. I get it. But when you look at this basketball team and how they've developed through the season and their bench has developed, if we take a look at a little Star Wars right there, going to the rack, the foul. Pittman goes the line.
They beat New Mexico in the Valley Mountain West Challenge, and the Lobos haven't had the season they thought they were going to have.
And New Mexico's in the 80s in the RPI, a win over Wichita State.
They beat St. Joe's.
Yeah, Tulsa's over 100. St. Joe's really struggling now because of injuries. Now, St. Joe's was much better. Shavar Newkirk was playing back then.
But that's the shell game you play.
Yep.
Because you want to beat teams like that, then hope they have great seasons.
Yep. But I think the later season development of this team, it's going to be interesting to watch Arch Madness, because I think if McIntosh can come back 100%, I mean, he's a differentiated offensive weapon as Paris Lee goes up and misses the shot. I mean, he can play mid-range, he can knock down a 3-ball, play his back to the basket. He's just a freak athlete. And then the development of David Njai inside of this zone. I mean, they're downright stingy anyway.
Yep.
They add him to the mix. An athletic guy that can block shots. Phil Fain has come along. I mean, this is a team with a higher ceiling than they showed in November.
Jaden Hodgson to the line, gets his first point. Okay, these games are the epitome of Big Monday. Number 4, Louisville, squares off with Syracuse at the Carrier Dome, 7 Eastern. Then it's number 13, West Virginia, as Hugs takes his Mountaineers to Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse, as Kansas barely survives today at Texas Tech. Big Monday presented by eBay on ESPN, also streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN. Texas Tech, Chris Beard gave Kansas all they wanted.
Yeah.
They got a Josh Jackson free throw at 2.8 seconds to win the game.
It's an interesting screen late in that game.
Yeah, Landon Lucas.
But hey, it's a win. Bill Self will take it, so will all the Kansas Jayhawks.
And all of a sudden, Bradley has just kind of
Yep.
chipped back into this game. They trailed by 19 at one point, had 1 point halfway through the first half. And now they're down 12.
Yeah, Bradley has played significantly harder, and they have executed a lot better as their top scorer has sat on the bench the entire second half so far. Darryl Brown has not been in.
Well, Hawkins tries to post and turns it over.
Yeah, Illinois State almost looks disengaged in the second half, and Bradley now has re-engaged.
There is Darryl Brown, the leading Valley freshman, scored 13 points a game. This is as close as this game has been since 8:22 of the first half. Bradley scores here, particularly if they get a 3. You really have a conversation.
Yeah.
Njai did it again.
Yeah, change the shot. I'm telling you, that dude is a game changer that we haven't seen here at Illinois State. He just keeps getting better.
Clayton, hard take, and he'll go to the line.
So David Njai at 7 feet tall. The thing I like about him, look at that separation again. And because of that separation, he makes you change your shot. He's not going to foul you. He just goes straight up with that wingspan and then goes and gets you the rebound. A lot of fans say, well, if I was 7 foot, I could do that too. No, you couldn't. You don't have the talent this guy has.
And we have seen bigs developed in this league down through the years. Clayton 1 of 2 at the line. He was big in their win here against Wichita State. He didn't miss a shot. He had 11 against the Shockers. Was 5 for 5 from the field.
Again, he just changes everything.
They're going to call a foul on Injai. He wasn't sure. Ed Crenshaw is going to whistle his first foul against David Injai.
Well, let's give Bradley a lot of credit for coming out in the second half.
That's kind of where Brian Wardle's team is right now. They'll play a half, but not 40 minutes. Sometimes it might be the second half. Sometimes it might be the first half.
Or you'll get 2 or 3 guys that play for 35 minutes and a couple other guys that play for about 15. Guys come out of high school, they just don't get it yet. It's that simple.
And they had a chance to win against Indiana State at home. They shot 3 of 24 in the second half of that game.
Look at Kentucky lately. Now Kentucky won today. You know, but in February, sometimes those freshmen go on vacation for a little while. And they're thinking Mai Tais.
Well, it's a strain of the season, too. Lee, and he gets bumped. Hodgson has his third foul.
They're thinking Mai Tais, and you're thinking my way or the highway. You got to step up and start playing.
And Darryl Brown is in the game. First time the Bradley freshman phenom guard has been in the second half at the 12:41 mark. Big 3, Paris Lee.
That's leadership right there from Paris Lee. I like point guards who understand game situations, don't take a lot of shots, but they make big shots when it counts the most. There's Paris Lee ball hawking again.
And if you find them, they're gold right now. Gold.
There's a reason why Dayton has won with all their injuries. Scoochie Smith.
Sure.
Cincinnati. Now, how is Cincinnati not in the top 16 today from the illustrious selection committee? Somebody explain that to me. Wizard of Oz, come out from behind the curtain and explain to me why Cincinnati's not in the top 16, and explain to me what's the criteria. That's all I want to know.
If they beat SMU tomorrow, they really ought to be.
But even as of today, it was of today. It all changes tonight and tomorrow. I mean, Mitch, why we talk about the top? I could tell you who the top 16 is. I could stand on my head and do it with my eyes closed.
It's the bottom 16, right? That's the discussion.
That's what I want to know. I want to know the bottom 16. I want to know what the criteria is to get in the NCAA tournament. Is it the RPI? Is it road wins? It is all the above, and one selection committee member wants this, and one selection committee member wants that. I mean, how does Wichita State end up playing the play-in game? So here's the committee priorities. La-dee-da. Quality wins, strength of schedule, non-conference strength of schedule, road record, computer metric ratings, and head-to-head. Well, it's in the eye of the beholder. I mean, give me a break. Rank those for me as how you're going to get in the NCAA tournament, so I know as a coach, as a player, as an analyst, as a fan of the game, what I got to do to get in. I can't stand the Wizard of Oz anymore.
Here's the thing. If you're going to have non-conference strength of schedule from the committee, then the committee is going to have to mandate scheduled home-and-home games in November and December like bracket buster games.
Non-conference scheduling is a joke because all that happens is you buy home games and you buy NCAA bids. It's that simple. It should be either home and home and neutral. Get away with all these buy games. They're a joke.
Did I touch a nerve?
Yeah, you did. I'm fired up now, man.
So is Bradley. They're trying to get back in this game.
That's Scotch bar. Big dude versus big dude. I like that.
12-point game. 11:20 to go. And this edition of the I-74 rivalry dates back to 1905. Injai offensively this time.
Kochbar from South Sudan. He's got 30 brothers and sisters, most of them older than him. Right there goes over another brother from Africa. That's a really big-time player.
for that one. 12-point lead here for Illinois State. They led by 19, however, at one point. As Bradley's chipped back into the game. All right, I talked about tricky Greg Lansing. What about tricky Marty Simmons at Evansville getting busy? But then look at the top of the line. These two teams, Illinois State and Wichita State, honestly, they have resumes that are very presentable for both teams to make the tournament.
Number 4 and number 5 in defensive field goal percentage, under 38%. These are two teams that can just flat out guard you. How about Southern Illinois? Clyde the Glide Frazier.
Yeah.
Coming back home, celebrating the 1967 NIT championship, came into Barry Hinson's locker room.
And the party got spoiled. Barry was so excited. I saw him Wednesday night at Northern Iowa. He was so excited for that weekend. Jack Hartman's 1967 NIT championship team. David Njai has only shot 12 foul shots all season. Has made 9 of those. How about Bradley in the second half? First half they shot 24%. They're shooting 50% in this half and only 1 turnover.
You know, Marty Simmons has those aces, probably playing the best basketball of the season.
So that's the story now of the Valley. Illinois State and Wichita State have split. And both made emphatic statements on their home floor. But now who slips up or doesn't slip up? And tomorrow, Wichita State will have that game at Loyola.
And Loyola played them very well at Wichita.
Well.
Porter Moser will have that team ready to go.
And if they shoot it, look out. It'll be a sellout crowd at Gentile Arena.
I'm sure Sister Jean Schmidt will have a special prayer tomorrow before the game. It's one of my favorite scenes in college basketball. Does it get any better than that?
Nope.
Nope. We'll be right there tomorrow. She even gets an award, the Spirit Award. By the way, you got the Spirit Award.
Spirit of the Valley.
Nice. Yeah.
97-year young. Is she 98? Now she's 97.
No, 97. She's 97. Yeah.
Sister Jean.
Yep.
With the scarf. Brown has yet to score in this game.
He's in the game now.
Forgettable night for Darryl Brown, who's had some big nights. He had 18 against Wichita State. They couldn't guard him in that first half.
No.
Peoria Shockers couldn't.
No, he was in overdrive in that game. Holy cow. Dude. That was a long ways out.
43% from out there, so he can do it. Again, he had 4 out of 5 against Bradley from 3 in Peoria. Rough night for Nate Cannell, too.
Look at Deontay Hawkins. Look how far. I mean, that's NBA beyond right there. I mean, he's wetting the beak out there.
And that's no Parrott.
No.
That's Reggie Redbird.
That's Reggie Redbird. By the way, with all due respect to Wushock and Ace and all those guys, I kind of like Reggie.
The best? Don't get that started.
You know, I like him. I'm not saying I don't like those other guys.
Twitter going all night.
I do like Reggie.
What about Kaboom? The Bradley.
Kaboom's kind of your guy.
I don't know what Kaboom is. Is he a gargoyle?
I mean,
there's Reggie.
I like Reggie because we're both vegetarians. That's why I like Reggie.
Didn't you give Reggie some birdseed once?
You know, I went to buy him some tonight, but the bag was so big, security wouldn't let me bring it in. Good job of getting in the gaps right there. Paris Lee, the thief of Paris. What a great kid. You know, one of the best parts of our jobs is we get to know these guys.
Yep.
Paris Lee lost his dad at a young age. His stepdad was a truck driver. Really did a good job with him. He's a good young man, respectful young man.
You also get to see him grow up.
Yep.
And in a college basketball world that approaches 1,000 transfers in a calendar year, to see a guy like Paris Lee stay in the program, develop, and become one of the nation's best players. He's the nation's active leader in steals.
That's why teams like Cincinnati and SMU are going to be so dangerous in the NCAA tournament, because they get 4-year guys. Look at Villanova now.
Yeah, same.
Jay Wright has built it with 4-year guys. I think you're starting to see the pendulum swing a little bit away from the one-and-done type of model and just building your program again from the ground up. Then there's that whole graduate transfer thing.
Yeah, that's all. There's, ooh, got Bathurst. Njai again.
Yeah.
Playing hockey goalie.
Shot blockers get in your head, make you look kind of silly sometimes.
Yeah, the transfer thing needs to calm down. Because you're right, Virginia's another team. They build their guys, they keep them. Hello. David Njai from Paris Lee.
That was really, really pretty in traffic.
Tied the biggest lead of the game. Now Njai has 8 rebounds. That ties a career high. Paris Lee, he steals it. He delivers it.
Paris Lee, slice, dice, dish, David.
.31 Illinois State in the I-74 rivalry, tying the biggest lead of the game after Bradley had got it within 11. All right, Illinois State, we go to the Supreme Court and we present the case. I like our case.
Illinois State 20-5 overall, 12-1 in the Valley. The BPI rank is 62. The RPI rank is 34. Lenardi's projected right now as the next 4 out. Quality
they went
wins
from a
over
10
Wichita
seed
State.
to the next 4 out. They were a 10 seed a week ago.
Quality wins over Wichita State and New Mexico. There's the losses. 7-4 road record. There's their strength of schedule, which is in the middle of the pack of overall in college basketball. So if this team goes through, wins out, and they get to the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament Championship game and don't win it, I think this is going to be a team that's going to be in contention for one of those at-large bids.
The 2 bad losses, nice lob dunk for McGlaston, were in November.
Yep.
Those 2 bad losses were in November.
Yep.
And many times we hear that as a qualifier for some other team. They're going, well, those were in November.
Yeah. You can't win, because if you win them, they say those were in November. If you lose them, they count them against you if you're Illinois State. I asked Kermit Davis one time about scheduling out of conference for Middle Tennessee State. And he said, you know what, Mark, here's the deal. Middle Tennessee State, November, December, we got to win those games. But for Auburn or somebody like that, they don't. If they beat Kentucky in the SEC, then everybody raves about that. That's their signature win, and they're in.
This has to be some mandated November, December scheduling on home floors.
Obviously, he's been hot.
Luke
Van Bray. Excuse me, Luke Van Bray.
53% in his career against Illinois State. And here they are, back within 14. He had 3 against the Redbirds in Peoria earlier.
Now, Bradley has competed so much better here in the second half. Haven't necessarily been able to get this thing down to 7 or 8.
What a perfect possession. You talk about a point guard time score situation, A grade.
I wish you could hear his feet. When he came down with this 2-foot jump stop right there. I mean, he slapped the floor and then took it off the glass. Yeah, show me some muscle.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Wendy's, proud sponsor of the 2017 John R. Wooden Player of the Year, and the new Volkswagen Golf All-Track, soon to be everywhere.
Illinois State wants Gonzaga. It'd be cool to have the old bracket busters and have Illinois State play Gonzaga. Right now they're playing their rivals, Bradley. Part of Rivalry Week presented by Wendy's, the I-74 rivalry. Illinois State, some real history. Greatest player in this program's history, Doug Collins.
Doug Collins, a tremendous guard, over 2,000 points scored in his career, 29 points a game. And there's Will Robinson, the first African-American head collegiate basketball coach at Division I level in NCAA basketball history. There's Doug and Will together during those days. And there's the statue outside of Redbird Arena. How cool is that?
Well, and again, you see Larry Lyons' class, the athletic director here, in what he has done in taking history and making it even better, where it's a perpetual daily experience for the people who support the Illinois State Redbirds.
By the way, Mitch, I couldn't help but see the We Want Gonzaga sign.
Yeah.
Gonzaga went to Moraga, California today and beat the St. Mary's Gales 74-64. Turn out the lights, the party's over. This team's going undefeated.
I thought that might be the spot. I thought that maybe the Gales could do it. You know, they've done it before.
You don't listen to me, do you? You just don't listen to me.
I respect St. Mary's program, too.
But you don't listen to me.
It's not what you say, it's what I hear. That's the old, how many coaches have said, it's not what I say, it's what they hear. Talk to the promo. The quest for 100. UConn women against South Carolina. Wills, bad decision.
Nice.
Antoine Pittman, better this year from 3, 5 percentage points better. It's his first field goal of the game.
Antoine Pittman in rhythm right there. He's so much better when he just reacts and plays. Right there, he just reacted to an open shot.
Well, they're way better from 3 this year. Their 5th most improved team is Bradley.
Yeah, they've increased their shooting percentage by 8 percentage points over last year from the 3 ball. From 28 to 36.
Clayton stuffed by Von Bray.
Ryan Wardle's got to feel awfully good about how his team has competed here in the second half.
And really without Darryl Brown being a factor. And Wills got maybe a little too cute looking for a highlight. They had 3-on-1 and Wills was at the rim. And in the effort to set up his teammate, probably made a bad decision.
Yeah.
Here comes Paris Lee to go. All right, let's figure this out.
Again, isn't it interesting when you watch Illinois State with Paris Lee and without Paris Lee in a plus-minus type situation? I am jacked about that Cincinnati SMU game.
And here we go. This is a big one. Really one of the biggest games all year. Rivalry week presented by Wendy's. Cincinnati, the Bearcats, winners of 15 in a row. And Tim Jankovich, who used to be the coach here at Illinois State. SMU, they won 7 straight, 17 of the last 18. Journey to the tourney matchup tomorrow, presented by Wendy's. 4 p.m. Eastern, also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
SMU with that great length of Shake Milton, Ben Moore, Shemi Ojale. And that's a basketball team that can really, really guard and lock you up. And then Cincinnati, the most highly offensively basketball skilled team that Mick Cronin's had, period. End of story. Look at Jacob Evans can score. Kyle Washington can go inside, outside. Jaron Cumberland, the freshman from Wilmington, Ohio, also has stepped up, make big plays in big games. And I haven't even mentioned Troy Copain, the preseason co-player of the year in the American, who seems to make every big shot for this team in big situations.
Somebody's going to have to tell me why they can't go to the Final Four.
They're really good, Mitch. I've seen them in person a lot. I live in that area, and they are really, really good. And Mick Cronin, I mean, listen, Cincinnati always going to defend you. But this is a team that can really score as well. I mean, brought up Gary Clark and how good he is, and Kevin Johnson, what a great defender he is.
Be an awesome game.
And those are senior, junior-laden teams like the AARP Bowl tomorrow. Those guys that have been around for a while.
Well, hello. Just what we talked about a couple minutes ago. The other thing is Tim Jankovich's team. We only play 7 guys, but you know what? Their spacing might be as good as any team in college basketball.
Yeah. And they can see over shorter defenders and make shots because of their length and size.
Here's Bradley again. They try to get it to single digits.
Let's see if they can execute this possession. Put a little pressure on Illinois State. Pittman, he's been hot. Just short.
Jeff Mallon has the foul long before the shot attempt.
You know, Mitch, what's frustrating for Brian Wardle, if Illinois State continues to hang on and win this game, he's going to go in the locker room after the game and say, guys, that was a great effort second half.
Yeah.
But where was it in the first half? That's what you got to do to win. You got to come out and compete for 40 every night. Sounds easy, really hard to do. And you learn those lessons the hard way, unfortunately.
But here's the discussion that will happen in Peoria this week is there's Darryl Brown, the great freshman point guard, who hasn't played much. He had the woeful first half, has not scored in this game, Mark, and hasn't played much at all in the second half.
Yeah, maybe he's sick. You know, we don't know.
We talked about him, though, being a linchpin for this franchise as they move forward. Also, Nate Cannell's another guy in the freshman class. He hasn't scored tonight. Lee, 4 of 5 at the line. It's right at his normal average, 80%.
Illinois State started to turn up the heat a little bit in this zone. Nice.
And Hodson gets his first three-point field goal to go with 3 foul shots. He had hit 8 of his last 13 from 3.
Yeah, his last 7 games, he's shot over 62% from 3. Number 35, Jaden Hodgson for Bradley.
He had 4 at Missouri State. Njai, new career high. David Njai, a new career high in points. He's tied it in rebounds. He's close to getting it in block shots.
Yeah, this has been a coming out party for number 4 of Illinois State, David Njai. Uh-oh. So Redbird fans, I got some bad news and some good news. The bad news is Mikhail McIntosh, he's not healthy. The good news is Njai is.
Headed to 21-5 with a 13-point lead over the rivals. Why? They take a trip to Paris every time they go on the floor.
Named after the great French city, Paris Lee, and he is a leader defensively. Number 25 in the country in steals. He can dish it inside and put it on a dime. He knocks down the 3 ball, which was his Achilles heel a year ago, not anymore. And this kid runs the offense as well as anybody in the country. Paris Lee off the glass. I don't know if he speaks French or not, but Mitch, I do. And he plays for the Oiseaux Rouge. The Redbirds.
Fluent in French.
Oiseaux Rouge.
Close. Kind of a matter-of-fact night for Illinois State. Mitch Holtis with you along with Mark Adams. Redbirds held Bradley to 1 point in the first 8.5 minutes of this game. Hodgson hits another 3. He's got 9, all in the second half.
Suns a 10-point game with 2:30 to go. Man, give a lot of credit to Bradley. They have battled here in the second half.
You put their first half of Wichita State together with this second half. Now you got something.
That's the frustrating thing about coaching a young band, the 3rd youngest team in the country. It drives you nuts. No way. No way. No way.
Remember Bobby Joe Mason? We were talking about him with the Globetrotters?
Yep.
He would love that. That was a display. And it's why he probably is the Valley Player of the Year. Njai, 4th block.
Yep.
8 points, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks.
How entertaining has Paris Lee been, number 1 for Illinois State, and David Njai, number 4 for Illinois State. Smallest guy and the tallest guy on the floor have dominated this basketball game.
All right, always bracketology every day now. Here's the deal. They got Illinois State as the next 4 out. Wasn't it a week ago they were a 10 seed?
Yeah.
So the 40-point loss to Wichita State put them on next 4 out.
And Joe Lunardi every day crunches numbers and comes up with a different list. And listen, he's not the guy making the selection. The guys that came on television today are making the selection. But they're in the hunt. They're in the hunt. That's the key. They're in the hunt.
They're big time in the hunt. Have SportsCenter U coming up next. And for Bradley, they hope for better days ahead in this I-74 rivalry. Again, 39.8 miles away. And for Bradley to try to close strong. They're going to Northern Iowa. Right now, Northern Iowa, they've won 7 of the last 8 games. They were 0-5. They're trying to become the first team in Valley history to start 0-5 and finish with 500 or better since 1925.
Yeah, they could finish in 3rd place in this thing.
Yeah. And then a couple, well, I don't know, Evansville's hot. Missouri State right now, it's hard to figure them out.
Yeah, hot and cold. Hot Drake, and then the NBC tournament. If you've never been to Arch Madness, you might want to give that one a shot. It's a lot of fun.
One of the best postseason tournaments of any conference. It's the feeling of an NCAA first-round weekend. Tomorrow, you and I will have Wichita State on the road at Loyola. Loyola has been stinging. They've lost 3 in a row, but they are dangerous. Milton Doyle, Andre Jackson, Clayton Custer, Ben Richardson. If they shoot it, look out. All right, now, what do you see here with Dan Muller? Where are the possible landmines here?
Well, certainly at Missouri State, they're up and down. At home against Loyola Chicago, you just talked about Andre Jackson. I think he's a big key tomorrow in that game. And then at Northern Iowa,
to me, that's
an interesting matchup right there.
Because Ben Jacobson has got the Panthers playing like the Panthers. Because they're guarding. And a dangerous squad. They got Juwan McLeod going now, a good freshman guard. How about Darrell Brown not scoring tonight?
Well, let's credit Paris Lee and company with some pretty stingy defense. You know, Mitch, tomorrow I can't wait to see Loyola. They're one of the best offensive teams in the country. They're ranked number 7 in field goal percentage. We'll be right here on ESPNU tomorrow afternoon. They're number 16 from the three-point line, shoot over 40% from 3 against that Wichita State, the number 5 defensive field goal percentage team in the country. That's a great matchup.
And Wichita State has been roasting people, with the exception of the loss here. And they got baked here by 14 points, 76-62. But Loyola's a little bit of a tough matchup for Wichita State, just because they can shoot it from perimeter from 4 guys. Dante Ingram can hit 3s. Andre Jackson a little undersized, and then Wichita State strengthen their numbers. They'll bring 2 or 3 platoons at you.
Well, in Wichita State, they're number 6 in the country in rebound margin, almost +9 a game. Their assist-to-turnover ratio is better than their 35-1 team. I mean, a lot better, Mitch. Not just a little bit better, a lot better. And their defensive field goal percentage is better than that 35-1 team as well.
Check the margin of victory, almost 20 points a game. Their scoring margin's at 19.1.
And lately it's been worse. Or better, depending on how you look at it.
Calling America's Renaissance Conference. Evansville, again, we mentioned that spoiling the party today in Carbondale of the 1967 NIT Championship team reunion. And tricky Greg Lansing.
Really good coach. That's a good win for Indiana State. Drake now kind of struggling here over the last week and a half or so. Good win for Indiana State. Marty Simmons loses his son Blake Simmons. He's played a lot of minutes for Evansville. Lost him before the season ever started.
Yeah. He's got another scoring machine, though, in Jalen Brown.
Isn't that the truth? How do they do that?
I don't know. Here it has been a good day at the office for Illinois State. Bradley couldn't drop kick it in the first 10 minutes because of Illinois State setting the tone with their defense, and Dan Muller having a nice weekend with all his buddies.
Yeah, he's going to have a little party tonight after the game with all of his old playing friends, teammates.
And they go to Missouri State midweek.
Were you invited to the party of the team? You weren't? Were you invited to the party, Dan's party after the game?
We had the party earlier today. Did you get invited? It was a good time.
No, I'm going to the real party tonight.
Oh, okay.
This morning was just a fake.
No, that's the fake that won tonight's a fake. They may drive to Peoria to party.
Dan told me not to tell you.
Okay.
So.
What a night, though, for David Njai, a 7-foot sophomore from Senegal, who actually spent most of his upbringing in France. We're speaking of Paris and Paris League.
He's been magnifique.
This guy gets it going every night like this.
Yeah, that's
Look
a
out.
difference maker right there. Guys like that, they develop, they move along, become a shot blocker for you, a game changer for you.
Well,
that's high major then.
Bradley had Patrick O'Brien, if you remember him.
Oh, man, I love that kid.
Got him to the final, or got him to the Sweet 16, big win over Kansas. We'll see bigs develop in this league. Njai gets another block. 5 blocks for Njai. Dan Muller, big weekend, nice win, sweep the rivals.
The story tonight is the blossoming of David Njai and how he changed the game for Dan Muller defensively. They've been looking for a Mikhail McIntosh Series 2. This guy doesn't have the offensive skills, but defensively, he makes them really different and really good.
Illinois State celebrates its 1998 Valley Championship, the last time they won it, with the win over their arch rivals, 64-50 over Bradley. Illinois State now 21-5 for the year. For Mark Adams and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Mitch Holtis. Now we send you to the studio for SportsCenter U. Good night from Normal, Illinois.